The cold was merciless. Imagine the air so bitter it burned your lungs. Soldiers crouched in foxholes, shivering beneath steel-gray skies, their breath freezing mid-air. Fingers stiff, rifles locked in frost. And yet, some of them survived nights colder than Antarctica, without tents, without sleeping bags, without any of the luxuries we take for granted today. They did it with a trick so simple, so effective, it still outperforms much of our high-end gear today. During World War II, the front lines weren't just about bullets and bombs. There was another enemy, silent, invisible, and just as deadly: the cold. Especially across Europe and the Eastern Front, winter didn't just fight soldiers, it devoured them. Temperatures dropped below -30 degrees Celsius. Supply lines froze. Food turned solid before it reached the trenches. And yet, amid that chaos, a small handful of soldiers managed to stay alive. Not because of luck, but because of ingenuity. Their issued blankets were thin, their coats heavy but barely insulated. When they laid down on snow, their bodies became heat sources, leaking precious warmth straight into the frozen earth. Some froze before dawn. Others adapted. Through brutal trial and error, a secret began to spread quietly between units, whispered around campfires and foxholes. Don't fight the cold. Outsmart it. What they discovered was something scientists now call thermal conduction. The ground doesn't just sit there, it steals heat. When you lie on snow or ice, your body becomes a battery for the planet, draining warmth faster than any icy wind could. So, they flipped the equation. Instead of piling more blankets above them, they built barriers below them. They created what soldiers called the ground bed. The method was beautifully simple. They cleared the snow, gathered branches, straw, pine needles, anything that trapped air. They piled it thick, at least the depth of a soldier's hand, then laid their coats or ponchos on top. Sometimes they even built a small windbreak or shallow trench beside the bed to block wind. When the snow fell overnight, it acted like insulation, sealing in their body heat. It looked primitive, but it worked. Here's the physics. Heat moves from warm to cold until balance is reached. The air trapped in straw or pine boughs doesn't conduct heat well. That dead air space becomes your invisible shield, slowing the escape of warmth. You can have the most expensive sleeping bag in the world, but if there's no insulation under you, the ground wins every time. That's why the old soldiers said, "Insulate from the bottom, not the top." Nowhere was this lesson more vital than in Finland, 1939. During the Winter War, Finnish troops faced Soviet forces, outnumbered, outgunned, but not outsmarted. In temperatures plunging to -40 degrees Celsius, they built thick ground beds of spruce boughs, sometimes lined with moss or hay from nearby barns. They slept close, shoulder to shoulder, wrapped in greatcoats. It wasn't comfort, it was survival. When the Soviets froze in their trenches, the Finns woke up, ready to fight another day. That's how they earned the nickname, the Ghosts of the Snow. The trick didn't stay secret for long. German troops, struggling through the Russian winter during Operation Barbarossa, soon copied the technique. Their wool blankets and canvas tents were useless against the frozen steppe. But a bed made from pine boughs and straw? That could mean the difference between frostbite and another dawn. And they used whatever nature offered. If there were no trees, they used hay from nearby farms. If straw ran out, they layered bark, dry grass, even torn rags. Every layer trapped more air. Every inch between body and ground was another second of life bought against the cold. It wasn't perfect, but it was free, renewable, and reliable. Fast forward to today. We've got ultra-light sleeping pads, titanium stoves, and thermal bags rated for sub-zero nights. But here's the truth. If you lie directly on frozen ground without insulation underneath, you'll still freeze. Physics hasn't changed since 1940. Heat will always travel from your warm body to the colder surface below it, until you stop it. And that's what those soldiers learned in the hardest way possible. The ground bed had more advantages than warmth. In swampy ground, it kept them above the water, reducing the risk of trench foot and infection. In deserts, it stopped the scorching sand from burning them through the night. In damp forests, it provided a dry layer against mud and moisture, a small comfort that often meant survival. The same simple trick worked across every climate. Just by understanding nature's rules, soldiers also learned that warmth could be multiplied through closeness. They'd build beds side by side, sometimes pressed shoulder to shoulder, sharing heat through body contact. One soldier's warmth became another's insulation. It was teamwork at its most primal. No words, no orders, just survival instinct. In those conditions, a shared bed wasn't a luxury. It was a pact. We lived through the night together. Or not at all. Even modern bushcrafters and Arctic explorers follow this same principle. They build raised platforms, line them with natural materials, and layer pine needles or dry grass before sleeping. It's one of the simplest, most effective survival rules ever discovered. And it came not from labs, but from soldiers fighting for their lives with nothing but resourcefulness and courage. There's something poetic about it. In a world obsessed with new technology, it's humbling to realize that the smartest survival method was discovered by men with nothing. No Gore-Tex, no nylon, just the forest, a handful of branches, and the will to live. They turned nature into their ally, not their enemy. That's the essence of real survival. Adaptation, not equipment. The ground bed isn't just a trick from history, it's a lesson in thinking differently. When the world froze around them, those soldiers didn't give up. They observed, they learned, they adapted. And that mindset, more than any piece of gear, is what defines survival. So, the next time someone insists that technology is everything, remember the men who slept warm beneath branches and snow. Their ingenuity outlasted the cold, outsmarted nature, and outperformed modern gear, all with what the land gave them. If that kind of forgotten wisdom inspires you, subscribe to our channel, where we uncover the survival secrets history tried to bury. Thanks for watching.